But do you take the kid along nowadays?
Yeah, nowadays.
I'll
Do you not go to school conferences?
Well, the parents.
Does Ellie do all of that?
Okay, so we're starting. I said we'll return at 1:15, so... okay, Councillor King, we're back. So we've had an opportunity in the break to receive the minutes, and a copy of those has been given to you, Councillor King, and also the Deputy Mayor. So in relation to the point of order, the statement made by Councillor King is, in my view, misrepresents because it doesn't accurately reflect the entirety of what happened at that meeting, and in particular, in reference to the minutes, it says, on behalf of councillors, Deputy Mayor Gordon Chesterman made the following statement. As Deputy Mayor, I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the City councillors who were involved in bringing the V8's event to the City of Hamilton, and then it goes on to state that. So I'm ruling in favour of the Deputy Mayor, and I will ask Councillor King that I'm quite happy for you to make the statement, but you would need to include on behalf of himself and councillors, City councillors, if you wish to continue to make that statement.
Excuse me, Your Worship, I have a further point of order then to that, because there was no resolution that I'm aware of at that time that the apology was being made on behalf of the whole council or on behalf of Councillor Laws.
Point of order.
You can't, not while I'm making it, thanks. That there's no doubt, in my opinion, Councillor Wilson's recollection was correct, which doesn't go against what you've read out. Councillor Chesterman chose to make that statement. I, for one, and I'm only speaking personally, was not asked to be included and wasn't included in that. So,
Thank you. I've heard what your point of order is, so you're saying accuracy.
yes.
Okay, so in relation to that, Councillor McPherson, what I would say is these are the minutes. Those minutes were subsequently confirmed, and I am reading what has been recorded as an official record. So I take your point, and I can say that my recollection was that there was discussion amongst councillors about the wording of that. But I am basing this on the minutes, which are the official record of the meetings held in this council, subsequently approved by the council. So I'm dealing with your point of order on the basis that you've articulated what you recollect as your position, but that's the end of that point.
I'm also asking, Your Worship, if there was a resolution.
No, there was no resolution.
Thank
It
you.
was a statement made in the council meeting.
By Councillor Chesterman only, wasn't it?
And subsequently confirmed as the record of the minutes and that statement at the subsequent meeting. So, Councillor, yes, did you
Yes,
now
I have a
have a
further
point of
point of
order? And what is your
clarification.
point of order?
The point of order, it requires a correction on the basis that I did not write that draft on my own, that it was prepared with other councillors who agreed that that is what I would read on the day. And it's a bit interesting now to find councillors who are withdrawing from that. It is a pity that those councillors weren't named. I did not do that without gaining the authority of council colleagues.
So, Deputy Mayor, what you're saying is the accuracy of what Councillor McPherson said. You're adding some clarification to that, are you?
I am.
Yeah. So I don't
On the
think-
basis that he implies that I wrote it. I wrote it in conjunction with colleagues who agreed the words, and there were a number of wording changes as a result of that input.
Yes, so I'm going to deal with your point of order in this way. My recollection is that is right, that there was discussion prior to this meeting about the content of words. But at the end of the day, these are the official record of that meeting, subsequently signed off by the council, that contained some of the councillors that sit around the table today. So that is what I'm basing my decisions on as a matter of public record. So, Councillor King, I've ruled on the point of...
Sorry, Your Worship, I have a further point of order on a different subject.
And that is what?
Relating to a statement by the Deputy Mayor before we had that short break in relation to an issue between him and Councillor King. He raised a code of conduct matter there that was, my point of order is that had nothing to do with the discussion at hand and should not have been raised, and he should be asked to withdraw it.
So, just looking at 3.13.7, which sub-paragraph are you referring to support your point of order?
I'm asking you to help me with that, Your Worship, just like you helped the Deputy Mayor with his point of order and found the clause for him beforehand, or you could give me 5 minutes to go through it.
Yeah, look, you know...
It's a totally extraneous matter. It had nothing to do with the issue, poured petrol on the flames.
No, I'm going to have no more points of order, actually, none. In relation to your point of order, to assist you, and this is the last time, councillors, from now on, if you've got a point of order, you can follow the precise requirements that start at 3.13 in your standing orders, and I won't entertain any more points of order unless you follow that process. So, in relation to your point of order, I think you are referring to discussion of a matter not before the council or committee. Is that?
Yes.
Does that sound right?
That's certainly part of it, Your Worship.
Okay. So I'm going to, my ruling on that is I think that the Deputy Mayor's reference to that was unnecessary, but he was using that to demonstrate, I think, an ongoing disagreement between himself and Councillor King in relation to what was or not said, what was or was not said in relation to election material. So I'm satisfied that it was generally relevant to the point of order he was raising in terms of context. Okay, Councillor King, I've given you the view on the point of order about your sentence, so we're now back to you. So if you'd like to carry on, thanks.
Thank you. In fact, less than 4 years ago, Deputy Mayor Gordon Chesterman apologised to the city ratepayers on behalf of himself and some other councillors for poor governance of the V8 street racing event. Due to the discussion we've just had around this matter, I trust that he is still remorseful for his actions. The cost of the debt reduction undertaken was more than just financial. It also meant staff restructuring and job losses because of our decision to take money in this chamber. Will this vote today create more disillusionment for council staff who were required to make huge sacrifices to bring the debt down in the first place? This gung-ho political attitude of borrowing large sums of money has created huge problems in the past, and I suspect it will do the same again in the future. And now, in the chamber this month, our Deputy Mayor Gordon Chesterman said, "I get sick of hearing about this debt cap of $440 million. And he also said, not long after that, "I don't care that we might have to take on more debt." The reason you're sick of hearing about the debt cap is because you're being reminded of the $440 million cap promised by this council. Why did we go to public consultation on this matter if we're not going to listen? 2/3 of those who talked about debt in their submission told us not to do this. Are we going to take notice of what the submitters told us, or disregard their clear message and take the we know best approach? I have no intention of apologising to anybody for my stand on this matter, as all I'm doing is reminding the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and other councillors of your promise during the election campaign not to increase debt. In my opinion, people who do not take responsibility for their words and actions create a culture of mistrust, dishonesty and minimise...
Sorry, Your Worship,
and minimise loyalty.
Sorry.
Those are damaging words.
Right.
Dishonesty.
Stop.
It's defamatory.
Stop. Are you raising a point of order, are you? Which one?
Should have it ready just like that, Gordon.
Yeah, look, it might be funny to you, McPherson. Just play the game. I can't sit in this chamber with people like
Okay.
you making snide
Right,
remarks.
so councillors, I'm
I
going
don't think
to,
it's
I'm going to stop the meeting now, and we're going to break for half an hour. And when people return, I expect that you are respectful and focus at the business at hand. And Councillor King, you might want to really think about the point that you want to make in your submission. So we're breaking for half an hour. Okay, so welcome back. So, councillors, during the break, I've had time to reflect on the conduct this morning and also how we might proceed for the rest of this meeting. I think, on reflection, you know, conduct in the chamber and debate, when we have motions to debate, they're governed by standing orders, but they're also governed by respect and relevancy. Relevancy means relevant in the discussions that we have, relevant in the questions that we ask, and relevant in the debate itself. We're supposed to be productive in this chamber. Productive means have good discussions that lead to decisions about matters that affect the city and the people that live in it. And I think focusing on that is very important. And I know that everyone here who has been elected to this chamber has had that foremost in their mind. That is why they've stood for public office, to make a contribution, a productive contribution, and add value to the decisions we make for the city. Our standing orders actually require us at all times to be respectful to each other and to staff. And if you want a pointer to that, it's actually clause 3.16.1. To me, it's clear that debate is not a forum to speak about other members and what you might think about them, or choices or comments that they may have made. The purpose of debate is to focus on the issue and your views about the matter, the subject matter at hand, whether you agree with it, don't agree with it, and why. The standing orders also require us at all times to focus on what's relevant. And those sections of the standing orders are included so that people focus on the topic and not use debate or questions or discussion to veer off into something that is not the subject matter of the topic at the time. And if you're looking for clauses about relevancy, you can look at 3.6.2 and 3.6.4. In my view, relevancy in relation to the motion on the table this morning is about expressing your views on the content of a 10-year plan and budget and on an audit opinion, because those are the matters in the motion at hand. I don't think that it is relevant to talk about your views on what other members may or may not have said. So in that regard, Councillor King, what I'm saying is I don't accept, when I look at those matters in the standing orders, and also just the way common sense tells we should conduct ourselves, that your debate is relevant. But I would like you to tell us what you think about the motion, your opinion about the budget and the 10-year plan and the audit report in a way that is relevant and respectful to other members, and focus on the topic So I'm really happy for you to continue, but I would ask that you focus on that. And so, councillors, if people start straying into irrelevancy, which is determined by the motion on the table, or start veering into their views on other members or staff, then I'm going to ask you to stop and to rephrase what you are saying. And I think that's how it's going to be from now on. Okay, so Councillor King, we're in the middle of you. I'm sorry, we've had some stopping and some starting, but I know that councillors are quite keen to hear your views and to get on with the matters at hand. So we're in your hands, and we've got a clock going, I think. We've stopped and started, haven't we?
Stop the clock, Your Worship, and I'll start it again when the debate starts.
Right, okay. Councillor King.
I'm struggling with what you've just said. If we can't lay out the context around the 10-year plan, what's happened, what people have said leading up to the 10-year plan, it's a form of gagging people in this chamber. If it is relevant, it does all connect back to the 10-year plan. You may bring in a paragraph to explain something which is relevant because it moves on to the 10-year plan, but this is all about $100 million of spending on top of where we are today. This is the biggest decision this council's made, and I don't think that it's fair to say that we aren't allowed to give our opinion frankly and fully on what's happened.
So, Councillor King, I
during
think
this
you have
trimester.
misinterpreted what I've said. It is actually your frank opinion on the topic that is what the debate is about. And that's what I'm asking you to focus on. And as the chair of this meeting, that is the decision I have made. It is within the standing orders, and that's how we're going to conduct it. So we actually are interested, as are the public, on your opinion on this topic, which is the budget and the 10-year plan. And you're quite right. You've got views about that. Let's hear them.
Don't
So
you
when
consider
you-
what you're saying as gagging members in this chamber?
Not at all. So I've made my decision. So if you don't wish to debate the topic, I'll ask if any other councillors wish to speak for or against it.
I'm just responding to what you said. And
I've made my decision. So do you wish to continue with your submission on this motion or not?
Your Worship.
I'm
could-
just waiting for Councillor King to answer the question.
Your Worship, I want to ask a question. I'm aware that Councillor King has a prepared speech, which he's entitled to have, and it certainly appears to him, it seems, that he's not going to be able to give his prepared speech on the subject, which he's been doing, as we all know, a lot of work on. So that's why he's in a quandary.
Well, first of all, Councillor McPherson, I think Councillor King can speak for himself. That's the first thing. Secondly, I'm asking him to confine his debate within the standing orders, which all councillors are fully familiar with. So that's what I'm asking. And we're all very happy for Councillor King to continue to make his points on the 10-year plan and budget and the audit opinion, because that's what this motion is about. So we're waiting, Councillor King. If you want to gather your thoughts, I'm happy to come back to you and see if any other councillors wish to speak for or against.
this is about $100 million extra spending that this council is doing, and I will not apologise for my stand on this matter. I will not apologise to the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor or other councillors in this chamber who promised in the last election they would not increase the debt level above $440 million. I won't be gagged, I'll speak my mind, and that's what debate's all about. In my opinion, people who do not take responsibility for their words and actions create a culture of mistrust, dishonesty and minimise loyalty, regardless of the organisation they do it in. And as the Deputy Mayor has raised the matter, I'll talk on that. The Deputy Mayor
So, Councillor
has
King,
filed a code of conduct complaint.
Councillor King,
Yes. This is directly
No.
to do with the issue at
I'm
hand.
sorry, Councillor King, you are to confine your submission to the motion, and that is
This is a code of conduct
Clearly-
complaint about this
clearly
matter, about the 10.
Point of order, Your Worship.
No, I'm
Point of-
speaking, Councillor McPherson, to Councillor King. I'm asking you to confine your submission to the motion.
This is about the motion of
The
increasing the
motion
debt,
is about the budget
the budget and
and the
increasing the
10-year
debt.
plan and an audit opinion. And that is what I've asked you to confine your remarks to, which is in compliance with the standing orders. So that is what we're waiting to hear about.
Point of order, Your Worship.
Yes, Councillor
My
McPherson,
point
what is
of-
your point?
My point of order relates to your ruling on the standing orders in relation to Councillor King's comments that he started to make about the code of conduct and your impartiality. You allowed Councillor Chesterman to make comments about that. When I raised an earlier point of order about that, you ruled against me. You did not stop him making it. Now you're stopping Councillor King making a reference to that.
So I don't accept your point of order, Councillor McPherson. We've
didn't
taken a
expect you
half-hour break in which I've asked people, I guess, to gather their thoughts. I've gathered those, and I have been very clear with all of you about how I expect this debate to continue, and that is how we are going to continue. So, Councillor King, we're very happy to hear what the rest of what you've got to say, but it's got to be relevant and respectful.
What I am saying is relevant. The cost of a code of conduct complaint is thousands of dollars, which comes out of the budget that we're talking about. The council has commissioned a barrister and council staff that I'm going to have to stand up against, and this is about
Councillor
the plan,
King,
and this is thousands
I'm
of dollars
sorry,
spent out of this plan.
I am not going to allow you to continue unless you are going to speak to the matter at hand.
The matter is blowing the budget.
And I think that's the point you want to make. So
leave
why
it
don't you
make.
confine it to that? Because we're interested in hearing it.
Thank you. So the Deputy Mayor Gordon Chesterman has filed a code of
So,
conduct.
Councillor King, I'm not
You just said you're
going to-
interested in what I had to say on this matter.
relevant to the motion.
This is relevant. This
No,
is costing
it's
the
not.
council thousands of
Order.
dollars to go through
No,
the
I'm
process.
sorry, Councillor King, it is not relevant to the motion, and that is the decision I've made. So you are to confine your submission to the motion on the table. Thank you. Did you have a point of order?
Yes, I do. I mean, clearly, the member has refused to heed your ruling and continues to carry on down the same vein. How much longer do we need to stand or sit and put up with this?
So I'm asking you to identify for me which type of point of order are you raising?
Contradiction. Oh, no, it's not that. Where disorder is drawn to the attention of the chairperson. 3:13.7.
And the disorder is?
Well, the fact that the member is not abiding by your ruling to be relevant and stick to the recommendation or the and keeps ignoring your ruling. We have to sit here and listen to it. I mean, at what point does the member not heed your ruling?
So, Councillor King, I've asked you to keep to the subject matter at hand, which is the motion. And there are provisions under the standing orders, if you don't comply with my request as the chairperson, for me to ask you to leave the chamber. I don't want to do that because I think what you've got to say on the topic is relevant and important. And I want you to have an opportunity to do that. So if you can't confine yourself to the standing orders in terms of your submission on the motion, that's what potentially could happen. So I've dealt with your point of order
you.
by reminding Councillor King of what the standing orders say. Councillor Mallett.
The motion is the adoption of the 10-year plan. That is, by definition, involves a budget. We're talking about a spending stream, which is the legal stream of spending that we're spending within this 10-year plan. Why is that ultra vires or outside the motion?
It's not ultra vires, it's relevance. And I have ruled that that is not a relevant matter for discussion on this motion, and that's my ruling. So, Councillor King, happy for you to continue.
This is a sad day for democracy in this chamber. Those who choose to vote to increase Hamilton City debt today might win this battle.
One vote.
But this time next year, we will be preparing for another election. And the voting public will have their say. In just over a year, billboards will go up, pamphlets will go in letterboxes, and advertising will appear in newspapers, and social media will be running hot. Your names and how you voted on this issue today will be in lights for all to see. Mark my words, it will be an election issue. Where will your name be? Will you take the easy money? Or will you take the hard road? To run the city responsibly, like a household or business, how everybody else in the city has to, with an inheritance, not a burden for future generations, seems a distant thought. But that's what we all agreed to in the annual plan just one short year ago. How quickly we forget. My message today is not anti-progress or even a debt argument. It's a stand for common decency. I shook hands with the voters when they put me in this chair to stop the financial rot. I will continue to stand for integrity on behalf of those voters.
Thank you. Councillor Mallett.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you very much, everyone. I will not be supporting the 10-year plan. Andrew's canvassed to the extent he could the issue of debt, but I concur with everything he said, but I do want to just move the focus a little bit more onto the rating issue. Back in 2011, the council, Hamilton City Council, increased rates by 8%. Since then, we have planned for and have executed rate increases of 3.8% every year. On top of that, we have a 4-year period of a targeted rate for the Waikato Gardens, the Hamilton City Gardens. Over that period of time, the New Zealand economy and the Hamilton economy has not increased as quickly as our rate increases are. By definition, this is just a matter of simple maths. Over time, if this continues, the Hamilton City Council will eventually gobble up everything in the city, everything, because our rates are increasing at a greater rate than the rate of our economy. So consequently, you cannot avoid the situation that the council is becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger player in everything. And by that, that also means that the council's hand is becoming a bigger and bigger hand in everyone's wallet. When we started off with this, when you started off with the 10-year plan back in 2011, this was for 10 years. We've now rolled it forward another 3 years, so we're adding on, so the 3.8s are keep on going into infinity. I cannot see a situation where, if the council keeps going the way it is with the spending that Councillor King mentioned, that in fact we'll be asking for more than 3.8% increases shortly. We'll have to start increasing the rate increase itself. So for those situations, for that reason, I cannot support this annual plan, this 10-year plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others for or against? No? Okay. Yes, Councillor McPherson.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Firstly, I'd like to say that I find Councillor King's views on speeches very relevant and insightful. I don't agree with everything he says or all his positions, but I certainly listen to them and I respect his integrity and I respect his determination to have his voice heard in this chamber too, with some significant opposition, I might add.
Sorry, Councillor McPherson, could you state whether you're for or against the motion?
I'm against the motion,
Right,
Your Worship.
okay.
This 10-year plan doesn't meet public expectations. The budget is not what people thought they would be voting for, or that we would be voting for when they were voting for us, in my opinion. It's not necessarily my cup of tea, that election outcome, but it is certainly a very obvious outcome that people were expecting, that the debt would be kept at the level that was espoused by the people that were elected in the election. We didn't signal many of the other changes that are happening in this 10-year plan either. We didn't put them to the electorate test either. The budget doesn't meet, in my opinion, the needs of large chunks of the population in Hamilton. It meets the needs of some, but it certainly doesn't meet the needs of the entire community, in my opinion. The debt increases dramatically over the time of the 10-year plan. Services in some areas have reduced, and sometimes dramatically, and sometimes completely. Spending on bread and circuses is maintained, however, at the same time, in some cases increased dramatically. Our priorities, in my opinion, are therefore questionable. The rates for some people have changed dramatically, increased, some down, many up. Some of those things were not signalled. That's the reason that I'm opposing the 10-year plan. I would also like to congratulate, in a general way, the Deputy Mayor on his day. In my opinion, he's the best speaker in this chamber. I just wish that he would confine his opposition to other people's speeches to his own speeches in reply, rather than continual points of order and threats of legal action.
Thank you,
Thank
Councillor
you, Your Worship.
McPherson. Thank you. Now I have Councillor Wilson. Are you for or against, Councillor Wilson?
I am against.
So, Councillor Wilson, under 3.6.2, we've had 3 speakers who are against the motion in consecutive order. So I'm now going to ask whether there is any speaker who supports the motion. Okay, so I'll take you now then. Thank you.
Yes, I was to speak in favour of the motion. I've previously stated at the many meetings that we've had in respect to this 10-year plan that I think the budget that has been struck represents a sensible balance around funding growth over the next 10 years and fiscal prudence. It has been sad, but it's pleasing to note that this council and the council immediately preceding this one have been successful in dragging council back from the financial hole and stepping up to recover the $76 million in past deficits that we have had to fund through additional debt over the last 8 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Wilson, I can now...
Councillor Chesterman.
I can come to you now.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I am against adopting this annual plan, and I'm against it not because the content of the plan is not well worked out or well articulated. In fact, we even get pretty colours. It's not against the plan as such, other than the fact that it's $100 million over what I believe the voters of Hamilton thought they were getting. This is the first plan that has been driven out of the mayoral office. So my critique of the plan is not a reflection of staff or their input. With all due respect, this is the Julie Hardacre, Mayor of Hamilton's 10-year plan, and she's entitled to do it. The national government created a legislation that enables a mayor to act in an executive manner and drive a particular course. So my point is relevant when I say that I believe the mayor has misjudged her mandate. I remind the mayor that the ratepayers will reflect back on previous statements and may be surprised at the fact that when in the past we've spent time articulating the importance of fiscal responsibility and capping debt and stopping the spending rot, for that then same mayor to have driven a new plan that increases that said debt by $100 million. I have to say that I am absolutely astonished that she's been able to get away with it without much bad publicity. The local paper seems to be oblivious to the fact that the same executive mayor 18 months ago talked about $440 odd million and 3.8%. And here we have a budget 18 months later, the first budget she's presented, and it's $100 million over budget. Now, there'll be some in this debating chamber who will be voting for this, who will say that my stance and others who vote against it are anti-growth. How unbelievable is that? Growth is a measure of sustainability. It's the same people who said 4 years ago, gosh, the city is in a disastrous financial state, we need to change direction. And when we do it, and when we get the ship on the right course, the same said people who suddenly find themselves in the chair feel it appropriate, can actually justify it by saying, oh yes, look, we can spend another 100 million. It's not bad financial decision making, but they spend lots of time articulating some of the other poor decisions made in the past for a less amount of money. So my vote against this is not a vote against growth. It's not a vote against a city that I love and I'm passionate about. It's a vote against the fact that I think the majority of them are finding it hard to stay in the homes. It's a vote against the fact that a lot of them struggle with paying the rates. And it's a vote against the fact that they thought they were going to have a cap of 440 million, where in fact we're going to deliver them an additional $100 million burden. I think that's bad governance. And my final comment today is, in my 12 years in local government, in my 12 years in this chamber, I haven't seen it as farcical as I've seen it this morning. And you know what? In all of my management training and experience, that is a reflection of the leadership.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. A key point that I want to make, and we keep hearing this repeatedly, the $440 million cap. How was that figure ever devised? And it was devised based on a percentage of revenue as a cap, 200% of revenue. And as we have accepted the 200% cap, there is increased revenue, which gives us an ability to embrace the growth that is forced on us by market forces. We just cannot say, sorry developers, there will be no more growth in the city, because people want to live here and work here, and we've got to provide the means for those people to come to the city, the second fastest growing city in New Zealand. So that means that we have the ability to increase the level of debt over the next 10 years because it's capped. It's capped to the 200%, and it remains within that cap. And I support this plan, and I will be supporting the motion because it supports growth. And it supports growth with a vision that has been led by Mayor Julie Hardacre in the first of the executive mayors under the national government's view of how local government should work. I will end with a final comment and agreeing with Councillor Wilson that those who oppose today's 10-year plan are opposed to growth and I think lack vision, because you cannot shut the door on growth. Thank you.
Okay, any other for or against?
Could I raise a point of order?
What is your point of order?
Thank you. Your Worship,
The 2012-2022 annual plan that the Deputy Mayor Gordon Chesterman referred to clearly says rates are capped at 440 million, and there's a graph directly below that shows it capped at 440 million through until 2022.
So what's your point of order under 313(7)?
Yes, misrepresenting the,
What, can you read back to me what the Deputy Mayor said, please?
I need to listen to the recording, Your Worship. I haven't recorded the debate word for word on my notes.
okay.
I'd need to listen to the recording.
Okay, so we'll need to take a break while you can do that so that I can make a ruling on it. So we'll break for 5 while they listen to the recording.